podcast made by women for women. We talk with a wide variety of experts, ranging from a sex therapist to the CDC and everywhere in between, to bring you the stories you're only going to hear here. Our goal is to entertain and educate, because it's more clear now than ever just how much we as women are doing, as parents, as spouses, employees, just as everything. Don't miss out on being in the know. Subscribe to Soul Source wherever you listen to podcasts today. Leave us a review too, because this part's really important. When you leave those reviews, that's how we're able to continue bringing you the content you love each and every week. So buckle up, Soul Source Society, because we're about to get started.
You're constantly doing productive things, often for other people, all day long without balance of any downtime. And we really need downtime in our lives to be able to relax.
Hello there, I am your host, Raquel Lamel, and I don't know about you, but I could definitely use a little more sleep in my life. I mean, just this week, in fact, just last night, I have a son. He's 4.5 months old, and I went to bed around 11 with him, and he got up at 2 o'clock in the morning. He is fighting a cold this week. He had his first 2 weeks of daycare. So I've been dealing with that. And so let me tell you, I have spent so much time this week sucking snot out of his nose and trying to get him to sleep, and a lack of sleep myself. And that is why I'm so excited to talk with my guest here today. She's the sleep whisperer. I swear to God, she knows the ins and the outs of getting sleep, staying asleep, and even how to just, deal with anxiety to help you sleep better and not even wake up in the middle of the night anxious and nervous. Victoria Lockard is a co-host of a podcast designed to help you fall asleep. It's called Snoozecast, which has more than 300 episodes and gets about 10,000 listens each and every day. Victoria, thank you so much for being here on Soul Source, and I'm excited to talk with you.
Hi, Raquel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, just in a little bit of talking with you there, you have such a calming voice. It's perfect for what you do.
Thank you.
So we're talking about sleep. Tell me a little bit about how you got interested in sleep and helping people sleep in general.
Well, I guess I could say it started, I was a yoga teacher for a long time, for 8 or 9 years. And students would tell me that I had a soothing voice. And sometimes I didn't. That it all depends on the context, whether you want to be told you have a soothing voice or not, because a lot of yoga classes are very vigorous and you want to, keep people very engaged going through challenging movement. But being able to fall asleep at the end during Shavasana is always a nice thing. I've always been interested in wellness, and it's something that is personal to me, because even though I've always loved sleep, I guess who doesn't? Maybe some people find it boring, but it's something that's really important to me, because I know it's the foundation of our well-being, and it's hard to be happy or feel balanced in life if you're sleeping poorly at night. And I sometimes have had struggles with that myself. I've personally, had various amounts of anxiety in my life that have made it hard to sleep at different times. And I was always looking for something that was a natural and easy way to fall asleep quicker, because sometimes I felt like it would take forever to fall asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I stumbled upon sleep stories as this kind of cure for myself. And it also helped my husband, who was having trouble falling asleep too. It helped us both to fall asleep so quickly. And we started to dream up how we wanted to make that for other people and share it with the world.
It's so interesting, because it's one of those things that, you stay up at night and you're just thinking, especially if something's on your mind, it can be really hard to fall asleep. And I've heard people say, well, try counting sheep. And I mean, that doesn't work for me.
I've tried that too. It doesn't work for me either.
Yeah. What is the biggest misconception you think that's out there when it comes to sleep?
Well, one of the biggies, I think, is that you have to think about both quantity and quality in terms of how you're sleeping at night. And quantity is the kind of simpler one versus quality, which maybe can be a little bit more subjective. So with quantity, obviously, we're just counting how many hours of sleep you're getting. And yes, there are some rare, lucky people that don't need very much sleep at all, but most people need around that 7 to 8 hours at least that we always hear about. And sometimes that can be broken up a little bit, but generally that's what you want to shoot for. Even with the quantity of sleep, it's not so cut and dry, because I found for myself that even if I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if I have to wake up at 6 a.m., I'm going to count backwards by 7 hours or 8 hours, right? I think a lot of us have done that. But then what ends up happening is it really that you're getting that 7 hours that you think you are? Because are you actually ready to go to bed and turning out the light then? Or ideally before that time, are you closing your eyes and then actually with your eyes closed being totally awake for an hour or more trying to fall asleep? Do you wake up multiple times through the middle of the night? So then that starts to get into the quality of your sleep. So if your sleep is really disrupted, for example, if you're a mom with a baby that has a cold,
Sounds familiar.
yeah, or for lots of other reasons, if your sleep's being disrupted throughout the night, which I think a lot of moms of little ones can relate to too, which we both are, that really affects the quality of your sleep. So both of those things you have to consider and figure out ways that work for you to increase them, and that will enhance your ability to just appreciate your life more during the day.
Okay, so that's a misconception. What about a barrier? Are there things that keep people from being able to fall asleep?
There are the amount of barriers to getting good sleep are innumerable, of course, but I think one of them is just that we often carry around so much stress from our busy days, especially as women. If you're a working woman or if you're a mom, um, and if you're both, you're constantly doing productive things, often for other people, all day long without balance of any downtime. And we really need downtime in our lives to be able to relax. And so when we don't have that balance, we kind of expect, because we feel so exhausted from our days, our long days, that when it's finally time for bed, and I know I've had this experience, I've been like, kind of felt like I was dragging all day, and I finally get to bed. I can't wait to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the lights go out, it's not easy to fall asleep always. That to me is a big barrier. It's just this kind of struggle, and it develops from just being maybe an occasional thing to sometimes being something that feels like it's kind of a chronic issue where your sleep over time, you start to dread falling asleep. You might start to fall asleep later and later, pushing your bedtime out to try to find a time when you're so tired that you truly will just fall asleep and not have that experience of struggling to fall asleep. So that I feel like is a barrier that I think people don't talk about as much as some of the more obvious ones, which like some of the ones that to me seem more like I feel like I hear about them a lot are um, in our society, it's common to have some alcoholic drinks close to bedtime, but
Yep.
any sleep expert you talk to will say that that really is an impediment to the quality of your sleep. You might fall asleep quickly at the beginning, which is I think what a lot of people are looking to do, but then the quality of your sleep will be poorer over time.
I thought for sure you would have said like screen time, phones, TVs, all that. I was waiting for that answer.
Yeah, that is another one, and that's a big one. And that is one that we all get kind of sucked into with our busy lifestyles and wanting something to help us transition from our busy day to relaxing into falling asleep is staring at a screen, either on our phone or otherwise, looking at social media with the endless scroll, or maybe on Netflix, binge watching some shows just to kind of let your mind shut down. The way that I think of it is that there's kind of like junk food and then there's wholesome, nourishing food, and it's totally okay. I love to have some junk food sometimes. It's good to have an occasional, enjoying that kind of experience. But in the long run, when you're looking at your lifestyle of what you're doing regularly, you want to obviously be having more of the wholesome, nutritious food instead. And so for sleep, that would mean not being in the habit of just endlessly scrolling, which turns into an hour or more at night.
Oh yeah, I can just eat away at the time. So, I mean, Soul Source here, we target women. We are a podcast focused on issues that are facing women. So many of our audience are, working by day. And then there's a lot of unpaid time put in at home for women with kids and after a full day of work. So how do you unwind, prepare to get ready for bed, and not just like flop down in front of a TV at say 10 o'clock at night because it's finally the chance you get to just relax? Like, how do you make sure that you're getting a moment of peace in a productive way?
Yeah. Well, back to what I was saying about the quality and the quantity of sleep, thinking about that quantity of sleep. So if you decide that what you really need, like I personally feel like I need a lot of sleep, ideally like 8 hours of sleep a night, but it usually isn't that, especially with having a little one. Um, Whatever it is that you decide that you need for you on a long-term basis to feel good, you have to not only count backwards from the time that you have to wake up for that, but you also have to pad that time with a, a, a wind down ritual for yourself, enough time to transition, because you just can't expect to go from running a marathon every single day to lying on the ground without a cool down. Like you need some time to transition, just like little ones. If you're a mom, like you need some time to let your baby understand that it's nighttime now, we're going to go to sleep now, it's a bedtime. So you need to like kind of baby yourself a little bit more. So adding in ideally an hour, maybe even more if you can squeeze it in, but if you can just figure out an hour of time before you actually turn out the lights, that you will be have your butt in the bed, as I say. This is a discussion that I have with my husband a lot, is like, just because I have to go to bed by 10 p.m. doesn't mean that that's when we should be getting into bed. Like we need time to kind of transition and relax and do things that are relaxing and enjoyable. A nice thing to do is to read books, whether it's if you're on your own reading, on your own is kind of a soothing activity, other than especially if you're on a screen all day long for work. Mm-hmm. And then if you have a partner that you sleep with and that person is amenable to it, you can read to each other, which is one of the ways that Snoozecast actually got started, was that we were picking a book that we would take turns each night reading to each other to help each other, to just read more, but also then we ended up falling asleep quicker because of it too.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
So, what are the benefits to good sleep? You mentioned, obviously you're a little more alert the next day, but what else happens?
It's so much more than just being alert, which the alertness is super important to me too, because you don't want to just have to rely on caffeine to keep you going, for example. You want to feel like you're getting the most out of your day, but it's really about your well-being and your happiness. And if you think about it like that, the way to look at it, and this actually isn't an exaggeration, is that it's like winning the lottery every night. And here's why. There was a study done just a few years ago in the UK where these scientists they basically quantified different events that can happen in a person's life that would make someone feel good. And they quantified that so that they could compare different good things to each other. So scientists know what the amount of increase of your well-being you get from winning the lottery.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think it was specifically $250,000 lottery. So not like a huge one, but like, I don't think
Still
anyone would complain. Yeah.
No.
I'd like to win that. Apparently, that is equivalent to increasing the quality and quantity of your sleep.
Whoa.
So even if you don't win the lottery, you can just do some simple things to sleep better and sleep more. And you will be happier as if you won the lottery. And you can do that every night.
winning the lottery of life right there.
Exactly.
So, what does an effective bedtime routine look like then? How do you get ready for bed so you can get that good quality of sleep?
One of the first things is to make sure that in your home, if you're using a lot of overhead lighting and bright lighting, to maybe over time make some adjustments, have more ambient lighting so that you can make sure that as it gets darker at night, your brain is starting to shift into understanding, like a few hours before bedtime. Make sure that it's dimmer. You're not staring at a super bright screen. If you do have to do things on your laptop or your computer, simply turn the screen brightness down. As simple as that can be helpful. And then when it's time for bed, again, putting in that, padding that bedtime with some extra time so that you have time to make the simple things that you do before bed, like washing your face, putting on some skincare, brushing your teeth, getting your pajamas, making so it's not a rush when it's so late that you feel exhausted, doing it before you feel exhausted. So you have time to kind of enjoy it, relax it as part of your self-care routine and looking at it like that instead of just, oh, now I have to take out my contacts before I go to bed kind of thing. And then having time in bed where ideally working towards more nights where you aren't just looking at your screen and maybe you're talking or reading or whatever it is that is relaxing to you.
Okay, that makes total sense. Um, there's one big thing that has probably hindered a lot of people's sleep, and it is this pandemic that we are living in. I think I read somewhere that the pandemic alone has taken off maybe a year, 2 years of people's lives, and I know sleep can also do that if you're sleep deprived. What suggestions do you have for people who might be battling some of that anxiety that's coming with the pandemic and work stress and finances and family stress and school starting and all these things so that they can function a little bit better?
It's so overwhelming, the amount of change that we've all had to go through with that. We found that there were a lot more people relying on our podcast and sleep stories to help them fall asleep during the pandemic. And it seems like the pandemic is going to be going on for some time more as well. So the things that you can control are these simple things related to your lifestyle that, again, it's not about being perfect. And I think sometimes people can feel like I'm too overwhelmed to, like, I don't want to hear you tell me to meditate or to eat my vegetables right now. Like, I can't handle that. And I definitely get that, but you have to think of it more on the macro level versus the micro level in terms of what you want over time. It's okay if you mess up from day to day. That's totally understandable and normal. We're all human, but in the long term, adding in, trying different things, techniques to help you stay calm, manage any anxiety that you're feeling, like meditation, making sure that you're exercising, even if it's something really gentle and short every day to help you, sleeping better, looking at your caffeine intake, potentially regularly reassessing how much of that you're having, and then making sure to figure out ways to sleep better too. All of those will really help in the long run to get through all of this wild ride we're all on.
Oh my goodness. Wild is right. What about, okay, so that's falling asleep. Now, say you're asleep and you wake up in the middle of the night. Your head starts racing. I've had this happen so many times. You wake up out of a dead sleep and then you're like, your head starts racing and you cannot get back to sleep to save your life. What do you do then?
This is the bane of my existence, but I do have the solution to that is definitely sleep stories. So I didn't define what a sleep story was before, but I mean, it's common sense, like a lot of what we're talking about today. It's basically bedtime stories, but anybody of any ages can listen to them and get benefit from. So we have people listen to our show to fall asleep that are kids, and we know they're kids because they write in reviews and they say, I'm 9 years old. And and we have, all the way through people that are very old that are listening to the show. And they get wonderful benefit from it too, because everyone sometimes has trouble falling asleep. But the thing that we don't hear about often is that middle of the night wake up. It's so hard. Sometimes it feels impossible, especially when it's later in the night, like, 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Oh no, are you
AM.
even AM, right? Yeah,
Yep.
AM. Are you are you even gonna like, well, maybe I should just get up now because I've been like lying in bed, not falling asleep. So when I have that happen to me now, if I know I'm not falling asleep, I put on a sleep story to listen to. And it's amazing how much it works when if I was just left to my own devices, which is my mind thinking about what's going to happen or what did happen, then I would have been up for hours and I might have given up on falling asleep.
So then, does that mean that sleeping is a skill or is it something that comes naturally?
It's definitely a skill in terms of improving the quality of your sleep. So just like how breathing is something that is automatic for people to do, and everyone needs to sleep just like they need to breathe. To sleep well in our very unnatural, hectic modern day lifestyles where so much pressure is on us to perform all the time, that is something that you can really improve over time. And what I found, for example, with the sleep stories is that at first they can help you, and that over time it becomes a quicker and quicker amount of time before you fall asleep. You start to feel like you're falling asleep so quickly that you don't need them at all anymore. You start to realize that, and this was my experience, was that it's like, oh, it's like training wheels. Like I needed them to help fall asleep for a while. And then at some point I didn't need them anymore. And then there was another time in my life where I did need them again. And it comes back in like that. It's the same thing with napping, which is, especially if you can't help but have disrupted sleep or poor sleep quality. So for example, when when I was breastfeeding my baby, I was up throughout the night sometimes when she was younger. So my sleep was completely disrupted. Or when you're pregnant, you're like having to get up to go to the bathroom. It's hard to
Yes,
fall
this
back
is true.
asleep every single time. um, so besides having a way to fall back asleep quicker, taking a nap during the day at first was something I was resistant to doing because I thought, I can't nap. I'm not a good napper. And most people I talk to think that they're not good nappers, that their body just doesn't like it. But what I strongly believe now, what I've learned from my personal experience and what has been borne out from hearing it from other people and sleep experts, is that napping is a skill. It's something that you build up. So don't expect it at first if you haven't really done it before to work. But if you let your brain get used to the experience, you will eventually, over the course of a few weeks, be able to lie down, close your eyes, and have like 20 to 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, let's say, where you will wake up feeling so refreshed. You might feel a little groggy for a few minutes, but you will feel way more refreshed than if you had that third or fourth cup of coffee in the afternoon.
Now, I hear people say when it comes to napping, well, if I take a nap, then I can't sleep at night. So what's the trick with that? Or is it really just practicing?
I hear that also. Yes, that's so true. The big thing is that you've got to keep it short, like what they call a power nap. So if you're sleeping for 45 minutes, an hour or longer, which is what I think ends up happening for a lot of people, they never take a nap and they're sleep deprived. So they sleep and then they sleep way too long and it feels so good. And yeah, that's going to mess with your sleep at night for sure. But if you take 20 minutes, you're really like, that's like a drop in the bucket in terms of your actual sleep, but you would be amazed. I've been amazed. I've been taking a nap daily. I've been lucky to be able to figure out how to fit that into my busy schedule, but it's been so worth it. I feel like it's changed how my body is able to function and handle stress by uh, instead of having that extra serving of caffeine like I usually would have relied on, having the nap is so much better than that.
So I'm curiosity now for you is you said you've been napping. How long? If it's like 20 minutes, I mean, how long does it take you to fall asleep then?
It depends on the night, honestly. Like there are
Okay.
still some nights where I have trouble falling asleep. And some of those nights it's because I think I had a little too much caffeine during the
Okay.
day or a little too late. um, or for who knows what reason. But usually I fall asleep a lot quicker than I used to. Um, I think I'm falling asleep within, well, I can actually tell. This is a funny thing with listening to sleep stories too. A lot of times I'll put one on at night to help me fall asleep, or I'll be listening to it at night to fall asleep. But it's since it's our podcast, I'll also be listening kind of to quality check it, you
Yep.
know, like, so I'll put it on at night. So that way I can tell how long it took me to fall asleep because in the morning when I go back to see where I left off so I can pick back up for quality checking, I'll be like, oh my goodness, I was only awake for literally 6 minutes before.
Oh my gosh.
If
That's impressive. Okay.
you
Okay.
think of that over time, like if it usually would take me an hour or more to fall asleep and I'm falling
Uh-huh.
asleep in 6 minutes, and then you add up, okay, that's like an additional 50 plus minutes a night. And you add that up over the course of a week and a month, you're getting significantly more sleep over time.
All right. That's cool. I'm so jealous. I want to learn this. I'm so going to practice this. um so I have a personal question for you because I can't talk to a sleep expert and I know my husband will he will want to know this answer. So he works what's called Southern Swing. So every week he's on a new shift. He's 7 days on and a couple days off and 7 on again. So it goes third shift, second shift, first shift every other week. So you have that, and then you throw in our 4-month-old son in there, and he is tired a lot of the time, and he is, he struggles. He gets a lot of broken sleep. If you're a parent and you're on a swing schedule, what can you do? How do you do that? Because that's like a whole different animal.
Oh, poor guy. That would be really hard with a baby at home too. Yeah.
He struggles. Yeah.
Shift workers, I really feel for. So one thing I'm wondering is when he does get to sleep, I'm hoping, do you guys have blackout curtains?
So he has blackout curtains upstairs. Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't preclude him from hearing, like, if the baby's crying or if the dog barks at somebody walking by or something like that.
There's so much that can be done to, I mean, it's a tough situation. So I don't mean these aren't like simple cures that are just like, oh, it's going to make it all perfect. But there are good earplugs out there now that are fairly comfortable in the ears. A sound conditioner, so it makes white noise just like for the baby. I mean, me and my husband's bedroom, we've had one for years. We had one when we were in an apartment that was kind of loud, and we end up, you just get, you prefer to have it on then to just kind of make it easier to zone out, tune out from any little sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, I found personally, because I'm so into getting good sleep, that blackout curtains aren't enough for me. Uh, I have blackout curtains, but I've not found blackout curtains personally that actually truly completely block out the light. And any little bit of light that comes through is going to affect your sleep, especially if you're sleeping during the daytime. Like a shift worker is going to have to occasionally. And there's also the light that comes from those very bright little lights that come from any little electronics in your room.
Yeah.
So you can put blackout tape on those little lights, but for really the better thing than blackout curtains is to have a really good quality sleep mask that blacks it out. And I've tried like a million different types. I there's a brand that I love called Manta sleep masks. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that, but I've tried them all. And this one really, truly, it's like a cup over each eye that blocks out all light. And that's what I sleep with. And I'm not even a shift worker. I luckily get to sleep at night.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're a fellow podcaster, hosting a podcast called Snoozecast. Tell me about that. How is it helping people?
Well, we are so lucky to be able to help 10,000 or more people fall asleep every night. And we've been doing it since January 2019. Um, so we have people write to us all the time that are telling us how it really changes their lives, because if you sleep better, as we talked about, it really obviously affects how you feel during the day. And there's so many people that for so many different reasons struggle to fall asleep, whether it's at bedtime or in the middle of the night. So our show has been downloaded. Now it's over 8 million times. So that means that people have fallen asleep with us that many times, which I just love thinking about it. And it's really fun to put out a show that you get to put your heart and soul and creativity into.
Well, and it's cool that, you have the numbers to show that you're actually like helping people, changing lives, so to speak. That's a big deal.
It feels like that. It really feels like a calling for me to be able to use my voice to soothe people, and help them to just let their mind shift into sleep.
So if people want to find Snoozecast, where do they go? How do they find you?
You can listen to our sleep stories wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, to Soul Source. And you can also go to snoozecast.com, where we have all of our sleep stories. So it's over 400 sleep story episodes now are available there for free. And you can also follow us on social media, particularly on Instagram at Snoozecast.
All right. We will have those links, and go check out Snoozecast. You can find them wherever you're listening to podcasts. All right. Well, thank you, Victoria. This has been really fun, and I learned a lot. I hope our listeners have learned something too. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, Raquel. It's been a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you for listening. And if you want to hear more Soul Source, just subscribe to our show. We're available wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can watch us too. We're on YouTube. Just look for Soul Source. Soul Source is brought to you by Red Shoes Inc., a leading agency specializing in crisis and strategic communications, media relations, social media, and so much more. To learn more about Soul Source and Red Shoes, visit us at redshoesinc.com.